It's week number 2 of my personal challenge, my faith in fitness challenge. And man, what a week it's been. Welcome back to my Faith and Fitness Diary, week number 2. It's my Faith and Fitness Diary where I'm documenting my overall health. It's a personal challenge where I've made commitments to grow physically and to grow spiritually. I'm getting healthy. It's a commitment to do cardio every day, Monday through Friday, for 30 to 45 minutes a day. 30 minutes of strength training in the evening, and to do 1 hour of devotions. Quiet time. That's like prayer, Bible study, and meditation. And I just finished week number 2. It's a commitment to physical exercise and to spiritual exercise. It's about total health, because I want to live an optimized life. Let's begin with the fitness side of the house. So come Monday morning, it started out good, but it was a little bit different. You want to know why? Because I was in Las Vegas. That means I didn't have my old faithful Peloton bike, and I had to call an audible. I had to use a treadmill. Dude, friends don't let friends run on treadmills. Lame. Well, my last video ended with me arriving in Vegas. Well, this video begins with me leaving Vegas. Monday was my last day. Well, early that morning, I wanted to remain faithful to my challenge, so I did cardio. I didn't have my Peloton bike, obviously, so I did the unthinkable. I ran a treadmill. I had to. You know why? Because this is how I ate for 3 days in Vegas. There's no calories in Vegas, man. So I did what I had to do, and yes, I still did my weights. So I did cardio and weights on Monday. Now, I only ran about a mile, so I only burned about 100 calories, but I did it, and that's the point. After our morning workout, we went and had breakfast, and then guess what? I had to fly back home and come back to reality. But that's okay, because I was ready to come home. I was ready to get back to my home routine and get back on my Peloton. But we got home Monday night, and we had a little bit of a problem. I ended up not going to bed till like 1 o'clock in the morning. You gotta remember, I get up at 3:30 to get on the bike at 4 a.m. That wasn't gonna happen. We had a family emergency as soon as we got back from Vegas. What? So I'd have to push my cardio and my weights till after I got home from work. That's just weird. So it's Tuesday afternoon. I just got off work and I'm gonna go home and take a nap. I didn't get my Peloton in this morning because I was up all night. I know, get hard. About 9 p.m. at night, our dog was struggling. Bottom line is, I was at the veterinarian's all night with my family saying goodbye to our little dog. So the plan is I'm going to go home, take a nap, wake up, do about 30 minutes of cardio on my Peloton, and I'm still going to hit the weights because I'm dedicated to this personal challenge. So I got home from work that afternoon and I decided I was going to do an on-demand or a pre-recorded ride. So, you know, I've been up all night, so I just decided to go something easy. This 20-minute beginner ride that was performed the day before. Look, these numbers aren't nothing to write home about, but I just wanted to keep myself honest and stay on my routine. I made it to the gym that night. It's Tuesday, so that's Triceps Tuesdays. That's what I worked on this evening. The next morning, Wednesday, I did a live ride, a 45-minute 70s rock ride. Now, that's a little bit more in my wheelhouse. I burned 544 calories. I went almost 15 and a half miles, and that night I made it to the gym to do biceps. Now my form may look kind of weird here, but I'm doing something special. It's called Super 7s, and it was burning out my buys. The next morning, Thursday, I did this brutal 45-minute metrics ride. Oh, a metrics ride is tough because everything that Peloton offers is in this ride. Look at this. I burned 618 calories, almost 16 miles. My body's still slumped over on the bike. But that night, you see that machine? I went to the gym to do shoulders. Those are my shoulder flies. The next morning was Friday, and I love Friday because I always take it kind of easy. So I did this heart rate endurance ride, which is my favorite ride to do. You keep your heart rate in zone 2 to make sure that you're burning fat, you don't burn any muscle, and it's good for conditioning. I had a pretty good performance. I still burned 492 calories, almost 15 miles, and Friday night I made it to the gym and I busted out back. Oh, I'm sore. It was a great week for my fitness goals. But what about my faith goals? What about my spiritual muscles? The inner man. Ooh. So let me turn my attention towards the faith side of the house. Well, this week I spent the entire week, even when I was in Vegas, in Daniel chapter 2. I chewed on it. I prayed on it. I meditated on it. And let me tell you what I learned. It's time to drop some knowledge. Chapter 2 of Daniel is a long chapter. It's 49 verses, man. So the first part of chapter 2 begins with Nebuchadnezzar having a whole bunch of dreams. In fact, he was having one dream in particular that was bothering him. He knew that this wasn't just some ordinary dream. It was coming from above. When I was a kid, I had a dream that the Incredible Hulk had pink polka dots and was chasing me. I don't think that was from God, but... So because of these dreams and this particular dream that he's having, King Nebuchadnezzar stuns all his wise men by demanding that they interpret the dream that he had. That happened from time to time in Bible days. We see it in Genesis with Joseph and in the book of Exodus. So he demands that his wise men interpret the dream, and they have to prove that the explanation or the interpretation of his dreams are valid by telling King Nebuchadnezzar what his dream was. Dude, are you kidding me? King Nebuchadnezzar is putting his wise men to the test. He's not buying their BS anymore. So Daniel chapter 2 verse 1, we learned that the year is 602 BC. And as we learned from the last chapter, that means Daniel's in the 3rd year of the Royal Academy. It's either right at the end or he's just been promoted. But we know that he's considered one of the wise men. So the king gives the command to call all the wise men, and there's 4 classes of wise men. There's the magicians, there's the astrologers, there's the sorcerers, and then there's the Chaldeans, or soothsayers. Everything's gonna be okay, man. So the king summoned these 4 classes of wise men because of their expertise in the supernatural. But notice that Daniel and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they're not called before the king. And this suggests to us that although they studied all the culturally relevant details of their history and their religion, all those ancient texts, they had no direct involvement in any practices that were forbidden in the Old Testament. Deuteronomy forbids any playing around with the occult. So we learn that King Nebuchadnezzar is deeply skeptical of these wise men. They have been pulling the wool over his eyes for years, and he's had enough. He even mentions it later in the chapter. So in verses 10 through 12, these distraught astrologers tell the king that it's absolutely impossible. And they would be right. We can't tell you what your dream is. You tell us the dream and we'll interpret it for you. King Nebuchadnezzar wasn't having any of that. So Nebuchadnezzar calls these wise men out on their BS, and he orders all of them executed. Whoa, that's extreme. You gotta understand, he's absolutely furious from years and years of being fooled. You say these guys were con men. Yes, King Nebuchadnezzar's decree for execution was extreme. Even Daniel said, why is the decree from the king so urgent or harsh, severe? Because King Nebuchadnezzar has had enough. So in verses 13 to 18, we learned that Daniel and his friends, who are now considered part of the wise men. Remember, they got straight A's in the Royal Academy. Not me. But Daniel asked King Nebuchadnezzar for some time. Daniel tells his friends to pray and wait upon the Lord. And here's an important point. Faith is expressed in knowing God and asking Him for help. That's faith, man. Boom! So in verses 19 to 23, God reveals the dream and the interpretation to Daniel in what the Bible calls a night vision. So what's the dream that Nebuchadnezzar had? It was a huge statue. Daniel called it a great image. Daniel called it awesome. It was a statue that had 4 different metals to it. A head of gold, chest and arms of silver, belly and thigh of bronze, and its legs like iron, and feet that are partly iron and partly clay. And a stone without hands falls from the sky, lands on the image's feet, crushes it, and the whole thing comes down and blows away, and the stone grows up to be a big mountain. Daniel says, that's the dream that you had, King Nebuchadnezzar. King Nebe. Then Daniel gives the interpretation of what that image and the metals mean. It's 5 empires in succession that will rule over Israel. Daniel tells him that the head of gold, that's you, King Nebuchadnezzar. That's the Babylonian Empire. But after you comes another empire. The chest and shoulders of silver, that's going to be the Medo-Persian Empire. The belly of bronze, the Greece Empire. The next kingdom in succession is the legs of iron, which would be the Roman Empire. And the feet of iron and clay is going to be what's in the future, the revived Roman Empire. This stone, which pictures Christ at His second coming, will destroy that 4th empire in its final phase with catastrophic suddenness. Christ's total shattering of the Gentile empires and power will result in the establishment of His millennial kingdom. It's a 1,000-year reign, baby. Which is the ultimate empire. Actually will continue on for eternity. So Christ comes at the time of that revived Roman Empire. That's the feet of iron mixed with clay. So the stone is God's kingdom and it represents Christ setting up his kingdom. The Bible says it's made without hands. You know what that means? It means that Christ comes from God and he's not of human origin or human power. Pow! So the understanding of Daniel chapter 2 isn't too difficult because Daniel gives us the interpretation and we have history that validates the interpretation. And notice Daniel's humble attitude in all this. Daniel said that God gave him the insight and understanding to the dream not because he's better or more righteous than anybody else, but that it was in God's plan. Daniel gave glory to God. And you know what? Later King Nebuchadnezzar is going to do that too. So the chapter ends in verses 46 through 49, and King Nebuchadnezzar is absolutely convinced. He's so convinced that King Nebuchadnezzar honors Daniel's God and gives Daniel and his friends high positions in his administration. So here's the big idea that I get from Daniel chapter 2. When I'm in danger, I don't have to panic. Like Daniel and his friends, I too should turn to God. So this week's memory verse is Daniel 2:28, which reads, "But there is a God in heaven who reveals secrets, and he has made known to you, King Nebuchadnezzar, what shall be in the latter days." And here's the point. There is no limit to what God can do. So that's my faith journey, and that's my fitness journey. So far I'm plugging along, but it's kind of hard, I'm not gonna lie. I'll see you next time for week number 3. Boom!